Dinosaurs always arouse admiration and curiosity. Looking at these giants, it's hard to imagine that millions of years ago they walked the earth and ruled it. But wait a minute. Why millions of years ago? Maybe it's not like that at all. In this episode, you'll see interesting footage that could have featured real dinosaurs. Let's go. The hunt was successful. A group of professional hunters were searching for creatures on which they could practice their skills and find food for themselves. It was in the last century, so there was no serious technology to help them with this at that time. The people had to rely solely on their experience and instincts. Usually, the hunters stumbled upon some birds, and if they were luckier, they could encounter a bear or a moose. But on this day, they were luckier than usual, because the people encountered a full-fledged dinosaur. It immediately began to run away as soon as it noticed them, which gave the hunters strength and forced them to follow it. By joining forces, the people agreed on a well-thought-out ambush right on the move and managed to implement it. Successful completion of the tasks allowed them to corner the dinosaur and deprive it of the ability to move. In the end, this monster was defeated, and the hunters shared such an interesting picture with the locals. I don't know whether to believe it or not. On the one hand, the story sounds quite plausible, especially considering the fact that these hunters were highly respected among the locals. On the other hand, it's quite difficult to believe that the people not only encountered a dinosaur but also managed to corner it. What do you think about this story? Let me know in the comments. Mosasaur. You have to admit that the fact that the only evidence in the previous story is a mere picture is sad. I wish they'd caught the ancient monster on video, at least using a hidden camera. Just like this video. The scientists found out that, according to locals, a mysterious creature of gigantic size and unusual shape regularly appears in these waters. They became interested in testing this theory, and to do so, they set up hidden cameras underwater. It was expected that it would be necessary to come for the results in as much as a month, but they didn't have to wait long. The very next day, scientists recorded a strange movement under the water. They took the video footage and were horrified to see a real monster swimming past the camera. If you didn't know, mosasaurs were large, powerful, and lightning-fast predators of prehistoric seas. Even dinosaurs and other marine creatures that were superior to them in terms of weight and size often became prey of this predator because it was not easy to fend off a mosasaur. Along with their great speed, these cunning creatures were also famous for their incredibly sharp teeth, which didn't let go of their prey anywhere. The bite force of this prehistoric monster was so powerful that it easily broke bones and tore soft tissues. In the end, the prey of this predator either died slowly from blood loss or simply could not continue to provide sufficient resistance to the mosasaur. Sometimes in order to study history and find out some intriguing facts, it's not even necessary to dive underwater and use special equipment. It's enough to periodically look at what the hidden camera is shooting in your house. Who knows, maybe you'll see a real dinosaur running past it. Usually, such videos do not arouse at least the slightest interest in me, but this one was an exception. According to the source, the footage was repeatedly checked by experts in the field of shooting, and none of them suspected anything wrong here. It's believed that this is not an editing. But in that case, what could it be? Is it a real baby dinosaur? After all, no one except these creatures seems to have possessed such a form and a familiar style of movement. Pterosaur. I wanted to say that the owners of that house were unlucky that now they'll be paranoid about the dinosaur for many more years. But then I saw this video. On it, a pterosaur flies straight across the sky and no one's stopping it. Again, the video was checked by experts and no one saw any signs of editing in it. At first, it seemed to me that it was not a living being at all, that it was some kind of amateur-built flying transport, but I couldn't see the pilot or any mechanisms in it. So this version's wrong. It turns out that dinosaurs are real. And not only can they run past a particular house, but they can also soar freely in the sky, choosing their desired prey. Sounds a bit creepy. When I first watched this video, I didn't even immediately notice what exactly was captured on it. It was very fast and unexpected. However, after reviewing the footage, I found a velociraptor on it. This ancient and kind of extinct predator ran right in front of the author of the video and hid somewhere in the rocks. Also, judging by the size, it was a very young velociraptor because usually these individuals were larger. A distinctive feature of this dinosaur was a large and sharp claw on both hind legs, which velociraptor could raise and put in front of it when it was necessary to deal with the prey and strike the fatal blow. I hope that the author of the video knew about this, and that's why he didn't go behind these rocks and investigate what could have been a fatal mistake. In addition, if it was a real velociraptor, it's possible that somewhere there were its congeners behind the rocks. After all, this dinosaur did not like to hunt alone. The great speed, agility, and high organization of velociraptors allowed them to quickly catch up with their prey, as well as dodge any of its attacks, exhausting them and depriving them of the last chance of escape. Footprints on the river. Of course, the main and sort of the only logical proof in the 21st century can be considered video footage. But it always runs the risk of being a fake, so I draw your attention to other, more classical evidence. For example, these footprints on the Paluxy River make one believe that dinosaurs existed at the same time as humans. Well, or people coexisted with them. Along with the fossilized human footprints, you can notice the footprints of three-legged dinosaurs. Both traces clearly have the same age. It's possible that people hunted these reptiles, or vice versa, constantly failed from encounters with them and ran away. Anyway, paleontologists have calculated the approximate age of these finds and determined that it's 100 million years old. No matter what the skeptics say, they cannot pass off this find as a fake. Evolutionists have found another way out. They said that the discovery traces do not belong to a person, but to a dinosaur that's not yet been discovered by scientists. That's a pretty handy version if you don't want to believe in this theory. However, it's not at all easy to believe in it because there are a number of other equally impressive finds in the world that make us believe in the coexistence of humans and dinosaurs. One of them is this image taken more than 1,000 years ago. It depicts people next to an unknown creature resembling a dinosaur. This makes us believe that people finally finished off dinosaurs and skillfully hid it all. Indeed, if no meteorite fell, there were simply no reasons for the extinction of these super predators. They hunted well, had amazing strength, skillfully adapted to new weather conditions, and so on, when suddenly, bang, they were gone. It's all strange, don't you think? Stones with drawings. If this image didn't impress you either, take a look at these interesting stones, which depict the same mysterious creatures. These black stones, covered with mysterious drawings, were found in the ancient burials in Peru. Of course, the scientific community declared it all fake, but it's understandable. Fortunately, there are still some brave people who want to set the record straight. They've taken up the incorruptible study of the artifacts. One of the theories, for example, managed to collect the stones in one place, organize a museum, and even almost prove their authenticity. However, with his death, the study of these artifacts has stalled considerably. But there are new researchers who decided to continue the work of the man who inspired them. Perhaps in the near future, we'll learn new details about the fact that these unusual stones are real after all. And if it turns out to be true, it will turn out that people really existed at the same time as dinosaurs. Mystical figurines. By the way, if any of you find it hard to believe in the stones, there is an alternative find in the form of some interesting figurines. They were found in the ancient city of Acambaro in Mexico, and they found them quite interestingly. Archaeologists were just walking around the area as suddenly they noticed something strange protruding from under the ground. They slightly dug up this area and immediately found mystical figurines of the people who lived there. In the end, there were not just a few figurines there, but a huge bunch of them. And among the usual images of rulers or individuals, it was not uncommon to find a figurine connected with dinosaurs. There were either figurines of dinosaurs only, or a man was also sitting on them. Are you saying that this is just another fake, and there really were no humans at the same time as dinosaurs? Personally, I'm starting to find it harder to believe. Well, now let's move on to other prehistoric reptiles. Prehistoric snakes. Some of them even ate dinosaurs for breakfast. Next, I'll show you the most dangerous snakes in history. Titanoboa. Let's start with a snake that many of you know well. Titanoboa was a real storm of the prehistoric planet, a giant boa constrictor that lived in what is now Colombia about 60 million years ago. It was the largest snake of all time, growing up to 43 feet long and weighing more than a ton. Titanoboa was so huge that it could easily swallow even a modern large motorcycle. It had such a wide mouth. However, in its time, it didn't swallow bikes, but fish, reptiles, birds, and small mammals. According to generally accepted version, Titanoboa became extinct long ago, but you can find a lot of footage and stories on the internet which suggests that several giant boa constrictors have survived to this day. Write in the comments, do you believe Titanoboa may still be alive? Gigantifus. The next snake is far from being as famous as the superstar Titanoboa, but it was no less dangerous. Before the discovery of Titanoboa, Gigantifus was generally considered to be the largest snake of all time. And given that Titanoboa was discovered less than 15 years ago, it was only recently that this reptile was the leader of all time. The snake lived on the territory of today's northern Sahara in the region of Algeria and Egypt. Gigantifus completely justifies its name because its length could be nearly 36 feet, not much less than that of Titanoboa. However, in terms of weight, it was inferior to the Colombian boa constrictor. Its weight was about 1,500 pounds less. The head of the ancient giant was not very large, but the snake was able to open its jaws so wide that it could swallow even an incredibly large prey. Scientists believe that Gigantifus even hunted prehistoric crocodiles, elephants, and sharks. Most likely it wrapped itself around its prey and then squeezed its muscle until its prey died of suffocation. It would then swallow its prey whole and digest it for several weeks. In this respect, this snake, like Titanoboa, resembles modern anacondas. These South American reptiles hunt in a similar way. Some prehistoric snakes hunted sharks and crocodiles, and some even hunted dinosaurs. Sanaja is just such a snake. In general, Sanaja is a genus of snakes, but it includes only one species, Sanaja indicus. By the name, it's clear that this monster lived on the territory of modern India. It was lucky enough to live in the era of the dinosaurs, when their time was coming to an end. But the dinosaurs themselves were clearly uncomfortable sharing their habitat with this snake. Scientists have found fossils of Sanaja, from which they found out that the snake ate sauropods, herbivorous dinosaurs. It's even possible that Sanaja hunted titanosaurs, one of the largest dinosaurs of all time. However, Sanaja mostly hunted the babies or eggs of the dinosaurs. Adults were too tough for Sanaja. After all, the size didn't allow these snakes to engage in fierce battles with dinosaurs. By the way, Sanaja was not a small snake. These snakes were as big as 11.5 feet long. Many modern anacondas are similar in size. Wanambi. The strangler snake is what scientists often call Wanambi, a genus of large, extinct snakes that includes two species. They were about 16 to 20 feet long and lived in Australia. Moreover, unlike the previous snakes from this episode, Wanambi became extinct relatively recently. The last representatives of the genus disappeared from the face of the earth around 40 to 50,000 years ago. So why is the snake called a strangler? All because of the peculiarities of hunting. Being a non-venomous predator, Wanambi killed its prey by strangulation. Sometimes it drowned it. Because of the small size of its head, only small preys were available to it. However, I don't think the kangaroos that Wanambi hunted could be called small prey. What's interesting is that this snake lived at the same time as humans, the first Aboriginal Australians. They quickly realized that Wanambi was a danger, so they forbade children to play in the potential habitat of these snakes near reservoirs. Children could only approach them with adults. Some experts claim that this animal, along with other Australian megafauna, became extinct as a result of the actions of Aboriginal Australians. Urlunga. And here is the neighbor of the Wanambi. Urlunga was also part of the Australian megafauna. It was the top predator of its time. By the way, it belonged to the same family as Wanambi. The enemy of the dinosaurs, Sanaja, also belonged there. Interestingly, Yurlunga is often associated with the rainbow serpent, a character in the mythology of the Aboriginal Australians. It's believed that the scientific name of the reptile came from this serpent, which was the patron saint of the sky, water, rain, fertility, shamans, and healers. Both Yurlunga and Wanambi are called prototypes of the mythical serpents in which the ancient Aboriginal Australians believed. In this episode, there's also a place for another mysterious and mythical creature, a snake with 10 heads. Many Asian peoples claim that such reptiles existed in ancient times and were no less dangerous than Titanoboa or Wanambi. Do you believe in the existence of these snakes? Write in the comments. And keep watching to see a 100% real snake with several heads from our time, as well as other dangerous modern snakes. Here comes the promised mutant. A resident of the Indian state of Maharashtra caught on camera a two-headed snake, which is very rare to find. The total length of the reptile was about 4.3 inches, and each of its heads was about 0.7 inches long. Because of its genetic abnormality, it had a low chance of surviving in the wild, so it was taken away by representatives of the Rescue Fund. But what's more interesting, it was a very dangerous mutant. The Russell's viper was caught on camera. To understand how dangerous it is, one fact is enough. It's one of the so-called Big Four venomous snakes that most often bite people. If that fact is not enough for you, here's another one. It's the most common venomous snake in South Asia, the bites of which are extremely dangerous to humans. More than half of the snake bites recorded there are of this species. The Russell's viper is also dangerous for other snakes, with which it can engage in fierce fights. Black mamba. This snake also likes to fight. However, ordinary snakes are not enough for it. The black mamba can defeat not only its congeners but even a lioness. A few bites of the black mamba are enough to make the queen of the jungle have terrible convulsions, which are unstoppable. The same can be said of many other animals in Africa. For example, hyenas, which can also become prey of the black mamba. This isn't surprising because the black mamba is incredibly dangerous, aggressive, and venomous. Its venom is highly toxic and is considered one of the fastest acting of all snakes on the planet. In some cases, it only takes 45 minutes for the victim to die. The rapid action of the venom correlates with the speed of the black mamba. At short distances, it develops a speed of about 9 to 12 miles per hour. There are reports that some black mambas have successfully chased even a galloping horse and a car. It's not known whether this is in fact true, but there's no doubt about the swiftness of the black mamba. Many people die from the black mamba bites every year, but in terms of lethality and danger, the mamba is inferior to the saw-scaled viper. Perhaps many of you have never heard of this snake. If so, you should know, according to statistics, it is the deadliest snake on the planet. More people in the world die from its bites every year than from the bites of any other snake. And this is a little strange because the saw-scaled viper is not as reckless as the black mamba. When encouraging a human or other potential victim, it doesn't attack immediately. First, it warns with a loud rustling sound, which it makes by rubbing its jagged rings. This is usually the first and last warning. If the victim doesn't leave, the saw-scaled viper bites painfully. Powerful toxins enter the bloodstream, dramatically reducing blood clotting. As a result, the victim often dies not even from the venom itself, but from blood loss. Every fifth person bitten by this snake becomes a victim. But there's also good news. There is an antidote for the venom of this snake. Mojave rattlesnake. Do you still remember the lightning-fast black mamba? Well, the Mojave rattlesnake is, in a sense, the opposite of the African monster. While the black mamba kills quickly, the Mojave rattlesnake kills slowly. Found primarily in the Mojave Desert of America, this animal is often called the most dangerous snake in North America. Despite its short length of about 3.5 feet, it's a whole storehouse of terrible toxins. The venom of this rattlesnake has delayed symptoms. 45 minutes after a black mamba bite, a person can die. 45 minutes after a bite from this snake, nothing at all can happen. Often, symptoms don't appear until a few hours later, but by this point, the countdown has already begun. A person has trouble seeing, difficulty difficulty speaking and swallowing, muscle weakness, and difficulty breathing. If measures are not taken in time, the bitten person can no longer be saved. Next up are representatives of the giant isopod genus. If common isopods reach a length of about 2 inches, then for these animals, 20 inches will be the norm. These animals live at a depth of 600 feet or more, and they feed on dead whales, fish, or squid. Of course, given their size, it's not always easy for them to find prey, but this doesn't upset the giant isopods one bit. They can go without food for 5 years, and they also grab every opportunity for someone or something to snack on. There have been many cases in history of these crustaceans attacking large fish trapped by sailors, and they're understandable because giant isopods are real gluttons. They'll eat as long as the supply is not enough for a long time. There have been cases where giant isopods were so full that they couldn't move around. Hit the like button if you're some sort of a giant isopod during the holidays or weekends. Megamouth shark. Do you know any sharks that feed on plankton? That's right, the whale shark. Yes, there's also the basking shark, but did you know there's a third one? The megamouth shark. I think even a first-grade pupil could distinguish it from the others. After all, the main difference lies in the name of these sharks. The large head of the shark ends with a mouth of incredible size which opens very wide. Despite its huge jaws, the sharks of the species live at a depth of up to 5,000 feet and poorly studied by people. Nevertheless, it's known that the maximum recorded length of the megamouth shark is about 20 feet. Pretty good, right? If I were in its place, I'd eat everything I'd meet on the way. But the megamouth shark has a different opinion. Like a whale, it opens its mouth and sucks in large volume of water, and pressing its tongue against the palate squeezes the water out through the closely spaced gill slits. In this way, the underwater inhabitant filters its prey and swallows it whole. Ningen. This creature also reminded me of a shark with arms. So judge for yourself. Who does it resemble more, a man or this underwater predator? According to eyewitnesses, the creature even has 5 fingers on its hands. Some attribute Ningen to the species of mermaids, others say that it's a fish with blurred facial features, but no one gives the exact information. This humanoid creature lives within the boundaries of Antarctica, and if we believe the rumors, it's strictly forbidden to talk about it to all witnesses. Nevertheless, versions have leaked onto the internet, one of which I'll tell you about in a moment. People say that several crew members on deck observed something that looked like a foreign submarine. As they got closer, however, it became clear that this assumption was wrong and that it was not something man-made. It was something alive, but the creature quickly disappeared under the water. Maybe it was some kind of night hunter, since it was only encountered during darkness. Maybe that's why you can barely see it. I don't know. Do you think this Ningen story is real? Or is it nothing more than the fiction of mystic lovers? Share your thoughts in the comments below the video. Mermaid in the Greenland Sea. If Ningen seems too obscure for you, what about mermaids? If we believe the submariners who were in the Greenland Sea, they saw with their own eyes a strange creature with webbed limbs, which may well be a mermaid. Fortunately for us, these are not empty words. These guys tried to confirm them with a video made by them personally. In it, during a dive, one of the crew members, a bearded man wearing glasses, is busy filming when cracks appear in the glass behind him, which on closer inspection turns out to be a pale hand with webbing between the fingers. This immediately catches the submariner's eyes, and he turns around to look at the creature up close, but it's already receded and can barely be seen. It's unlikely that one of the divers went underwater and decided to make fun of a friend, right? Doesn't look like an editing either, but then what could it have been? Personally, I tend to the mystical explanation of the find. Any way you slice it, the depth of about half a mile that people were at makes me dismiss the version that it was a prank. No one can dive that deep. What do you think? That's all, guys. Do you believe in mermaids? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and see you later.